What's up, dreamers? So today we're actually going to be learning the fundamentals of JavaScript. We're going to be learning Node. We're going to be learning how to read Node errors. We're going to be learning how to add comments to our code, describe basic data types in JavaScript, such as Booleans, strings, and integers. Okay, we're going to be learning how to create variables, assign values to those variables, concatenating values, writing while loops, and learning how to write for loops. I hope you're excited because dreamers, it's time for you to wake up and make it a reality. All right, so in this video, we are going to start learning JavaScript. All right, and before we get started, let's do a couple things here. We want to install a code editor, okay? And we want to install Node on our computer, okay? If you do not know what a code editor is or a text editor, okay, that is just a program or software that we're going to use that's friendly for us to write our code in. Okay, and one of the most popular ones out there is Visual Studio's Code. Okay, and I'll post this link in the description. Okay, but what I want you to do is I want you to come to Visual Studio's Code and I want you to download Visual Studio's Code. Okay, not Visual Studio, not Visual Studio, whatever else is out there. Visual Studio Code. Like I said, I'll put the link in the description, and that's the one I want you to download. Okay, usually whenever you come here, okay, it'll already have which one is associated with the computer that you're in. Okay, so if you're on Mac, it should pop up as Mac, and if you're on Windows or Linux, it should tell you whichever one that you're downloading. But if for whatever reason, it's telling you something different and you know you are not on that software, if you know you're on a Windows and not a Mac and vice versa or whatever else, just click on this down arrow key and you should have other options to download from. Okay, and just make sure you download the correct one that's associated to you. If you don't know which one you have, okay, just click it as is. Okay, it's probably choosing the right one for you, and no need to try to figure something out that you don't really know yourself. Okay, so go ahead and download Visual Studio's Code. Okay, and the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up Node on our computer. So I want you to come to this link, okay, nodejs.org, English download current. Okay, now what I want you to do is I do not want you to be on LTS. If this is green like that, that's no go. I want you to come to current. Okay, come to current and download whichever one is associated with yours. Okay, you need to have Node. Like I said, I'll put this link in the description as well. And just make sure you have these things before you continue forward, because if you do not have Node, your projects from this point forward are not going to work properly, because you need to have this. All right, what I want you to do at this point forward, okay, I want you to go ahead and open up your terminal and go ahead and navigate to your desktop. If you do not know how to operate your terminal, if you do not know your terminal commands or anything like that, I highly encourage you to stop this video right now, go watch the other video, and I'll try to see if I can post it here on the screen. That way you can have easy access to that. Go watch that video, because if you do not watch that video, you are going to struggle so much with keeping up and knowing what's going on from literally every other video in this channel, because you have to know how to operate your terminal. There's no way you can be a good programmer, good web developer, good whatever, if you do not know how to operate your terminal. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but it's true. Okay, take my advice for it, take my word for it. Invest the time in yourself and learn that terminal. Okay, now by now you should already have be inside of your desktop, and I want you to go ahead and make a directory. Okay, and we're gonna call that Dream Coders. The first thing before you, hopefully you haven't hit enter yet, okay, but one of the first things I do want to mention as far as naming. Whenever you're naming your files, whenever you're naming your directories, whenever you're naming anything, okay, one thing that's important to keep in mind is your naming conventions. Okay, so what that is, what a naming convention is you naming something, like I said, directory, file, whatever, you giving it a name that makes sense. Okay, something that makes sense. The reason we're going to name this Dream Coders is because, of course, the channel name is called Dream Coders. And so that way, if you decide to stop watching the videos and then return at a later time, or you have all these other videos that you've been watching and coding along with and you're learning, you know exactly what it is you're looking at before you even open up the file. Okay, so if you name this XYZ, or you name this untitled whatever, okay, you're not going to know what it is. Okay, if you notice, most of the files on your computer, on your desktop, or the directories, most of them have a naming convention that makes sense. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind is that whenever you're naming stuff, what I want you to do with these names is to put them in camelCase. Okay, that's something that's very popular in it is mandatory in learning JavaScript. camelCase. What that is that whenever you write your name, okay, whenever you're naming something, you're going to start with the lowercase letter, okay, first, and the first word. So notice how I didn't start dream with a capital D. I started it with a lowercase d. Okay, and on the second word, you're going to give it a capital case. Okay, and every word after that starts with the capital case as well. Okay, so it's not lowercase, then uppercase, then lowercase, then uppercase. No, it's going to be lowercase, uppercase, and then uppercase from that point. Okay, up, down, just like that. Okay, starts with the lowercase first, uppercase, then every word after that is uppercase as well. So we're gonna name this Dream Coders. Okay, press enter. Okay, and I want you to go inside of Dream Coders. All right, and I want you to create another directory. Okay, and we're gonna name this JavaScript Day 1. All right, now what I want you to do is I want you to go inside of that directory. Okay, and now what I want you to do is I want you to create a file called firstcode.js. Okay, firstcode.js. Now, hopefully by this time of the video, you already have Visual Studio Code already downloaded. Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to hit Command Space, type in Visual, get Visual Studio's code. I want you to press enter. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open mine this way because I got other projects open. And you should come to a screen that looks similar to this. All right. Now here, what I want you to do is I want you to hit Command Shift P. Okay. Command Shift P. And what I want you to do, and I'm going to do it with you. Okay. I want you to hit Command Shift P. And I want you to look for shell command, install code command in path. Okay, it's right here. Shell command, install code command in path. Once you go ahead and click on it, if it asks you for your password, go ahead and put your password in. You should see this. Shell command code successfully installed in path. Just click OK. All right. I want you to go ahead and exit. All right. And what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your terminal and I want you to type this in: code space dot. If your Visual Studio opens, you have successfully installed the shell commands to your terminal, and everything should be working properly. All right, me personally, I like to keep mine halfway because I like to see the terminal and the project file at the same time. Okay. If you notice, you got your first code.js in here. Okay, this should be the only folder in here. If you have more than one thing in here, either A, you created more than what I told you to do, okay, or 2, you are not in the proper directory. Okay, so if you have like this drop down arrow like this right here, but inside of here where it looks like, you know, this first code, it might be in something else, go ahead and exit, go back in your terminal, check, and then, you know, go into the directory and open, and then reopen it. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to see if Node is properly installed. Okay, I want you to do Node -v. Okay. If you barely installed a Node in this video, you should have this version or later. Okay, you should not have an older version than me if you installed it at the time of this video, because I installed Node way long ago than before this video. Okay, so you should not have an older version of me. If you do, that's a problem, and I'm gonna need you to go ahead and just start over and re-download the proper one. Okay, so if this is your very first time programming, okay, one of the very first things that most, if not all, programmers do is get hello world on their screen. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get that. And just a fun fact, one of the first people, I cannot remember the name, but somebody who invented coding or whatever decided to put hello world on the computer back in like the 1980s, early 1990s, and that has been the word, I guess, to put on a computer first to say, hey, I'm communicating. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, what I want you to type is, I want you to type Console.log, okay, and inside of the parentheses, go ahead and do a quotation mark, whether that's single or double, doesn't matter. Okay, and I want you to type in hello world, just like that. I want you to save it. I want you to come to your terminal. I want you to type in Node, and I want you to type in the name of the file that we created. Okay, so if you followed me, Node first code.js. Okay, if you press enter, congratulations, you just did your first line of JavaScript, and you are now communicating through your computer. Okay, and with Console.log, we can actually send anything. Okay. Hello, Dream Coders. Run it again. Hello, Dream Coders. All right, so this is a very important syntax that you're going to use throughout your entire learning of JavaScript, okay? Because Console.log literally saves you so much time. It saves you so much energy. Perfect for debugging. And just take my word for it, you're going to be using it a whole lot. Okay, I'm going to give you a perfect example of why Console.log is important. Okay, so what I want you to do is, let's go ahead and make a deliberate error. Let's remove one of the quotation marks. Okay, I want you to go ahead and save it. Come back over here. Now let's run Node again. And as you can see, we have this error. Okay, it tells us exactly what's wrong. It says syntax error, invalid or unexpected token. Okay, so syntax error is basically saying, hey, there's something wrong with the way you just said something. Okay, you gotta remember, programming, okay, is literally just communicating in a language, okay? Computer language, yeah, but a language nonetheless, okay? So pretend like we're learning Spanish for a second, okay? Okay, we're learning Spanish, and you learn how to say hello. Hola, okay? And let's say you went to Mexico, okay? But instead of saying hola to somebody, you said holla, spelled the exact same way. But that very little change that you did, hola to holla, means the world of a difference, okay? So programming is very tedious. You have to make sure you put in the correct things, say things the correct way, otherwise it will not work. And that's why we have things like a text editor, like Visual Studio's Code. Because if you see on my screen, and it should be look the same way on yours, this doesn't even look right, okay? You have this, especially this right here, where it's red and there's a squiggly line. It tells you, hey, it's telling you, hey, like there's an issue. Are you sure this is correct? Okay, and it says unterminated string literal. So this is saying, hey, like you opened up a string and it never, there's no ending to it. Unterminated, that's what that means. So we come back, put that in, and then of course, it's fixed, right? And let's say that you want to create notes for yourself, leave notes for yourself, because taking notes is important, okay? And especially if you're growing up in school and you were the note-taking type, then this is especially for you, okay? Because you're not meant to memorize this stuff, okay? And whenever you start actually writing your own code and you return to a project or whatever a week later, 3 days later, a month later, 6 months, a year, whatever, you return to it at a later date, you're not going to remember every single line of code that you did. Even if you're looking at it, you're going to look at your code and you'll be like, what in the world did I just write? Especially as a beginner programmer, because as you start to develop the skills and you just start to develop how to write things properly, whenever you return to your old code, you're going to be like, what did I write? Because it looks so off. Okay, so what I want you to do is either on the line above it or below it. I like to do above. I want you to type in notes, okay? I want you to say what this is doing. And this is just logging the string, okay? If you save it and you try to run it, it'll also give you syntax error, okay? It's saying, hey, I don't know what this is. Like, what did you just tell me? This is saying, you know, like I said, it doesn't know what logging the string is. So what text editors allow you to do, what programming allows you to do, is to leave comments. But, well, Isaiah, how do you put a comment down? What I want you to do is I want you to go to the line that you want commented. I want you to hit Command / okay? And you should see your comments turn green. You should see your comments turn green. So now, come back to your terminal, rerun it, and you get hello, Dream Coders. Well, Isaiah, what's actually going on? I don't get the difference. Just because it has a couple slashes in the front? Well, what's going on is that whenever your computer is reading your code, it's reading it from top to bottom, right? But it does not read what's in comments. It's actually skipping over the line. So instead of starting, it's still starting at line 1 and reading it to line 2. But what it's doing is that it's not like trying to interpret this. It's just ignoring it. It's just saying, hey, okay, that's there, but I'm just going to ignore that. And we're going to continue on forward. Okay. So that's how you do comments. Okay. But if you decided to do, let's say, multiple lines of comments, okay, that's okay too. Okay, just highlight the whole thing, Control slash, and as you can see, it'll put lines. It'll comment out all 3 lines, and if you run, same thing. Okay, it'll acknowledge that it's there, but it's not actually trying to interpret it, and it'll just start at line 4. All right, Isaiah. So I get it. Okay, we're logging the string. It makes sense. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I understand what's going on so far, but what exactly is a string? I've never heard that before. So JavaScript has a few data types, okay? Strings is one of those data types. String, all that is words or numbers inside of quotation marks, okay? You can have a string like this, okay, with single quotation marks. You can have a string with double quotation marks, or right above the tilde, or right where the tilde is, these backticks, you can have strings like this, okay? But like I said, strings can be letters, strings can be numbers, strings can be a mix of numbers and letters. Okay? That's what a string is. The next kind of data type that we have is integers. Okay, so for those people that are non-mathematically inclined, an integer is just a number. Okay, 23, 45, 3, 89, 1006. These are all integers, okay? Well, Isaiah, what's the difference between an integer and a string? Well, let's find out. You can go ahead and comment out your console log up here. And let's write another console log. Okay, it has to be lowercase. Don't do what I just did. It has to be lowercase. And I want you to do 1 plus 1. Just like this, okay? Save it, and I want you to run it. As you can see, it says 1 plus 1. Okay. A string is reading exactly what's inside of there. No more, no less. A string reads exactly what's inside of the quotation mark. However, if you did a log of integers like this, 1 plus 1, save it, run it again. I'll comment this one out, that way you can see it clearly. You get the answer of 2. So an integer is the actual number. Okay? An integer is the actual number. A string, on the other hand, is just reading what's there. All right, so let's start learning about variables. Variables can be made up of either letters, numbers, or some other characteristics that are available, like the underscore and the $sign, which we'll get into, later on down the road. But it cannot start with a number. Okay, it's incapable of holding any kind of data. Okay, so variables are case sensitive. So this is where I was mentioning camelCase, okay? It's case sensitive. So if we wrote dream coders like this, dream coders like that, oops, and dream coders like this, that's 3 different variations. Each one of those will have a total different variable that you can call from, okay? So if we wanted to call one and not the other two, you can do that because, like I said, JavaScript is case sensitive. So it will read and bring back whichever one is identical to what it is you're looking for. Variables are not wrapped in quotes either. Notice how I did not put these in quotes. And that's because JavaScript needs to be able to distinguish between what's a variable and what is a string. And these must be declared using let, const, or var. Okay? Let, const, or var. Okay? Var is a pretty older version of JavaScript that you should not be using. Okay? Don't use var. If you want to use var, use let. On variables, okay? Whichever one you decide to use, whether that's let or const, you are then going to use the name. Okay? And this name can be whatever you want it to be. It can be XYZ. It can be C3PO. It can be anything. Okay? But like I said many times before throughout this video, you need to stick to naming conventions. Name it whatever it is that makes sense. Okay? So let's just say that we're just going to give it a letter though, because we're not really naming anything right now. And then you're going to follow up with the equal sign and then give it whatever the value is. So if you decided to give it an integer of 12, a now equals 12. Okay? If you decided to create a variable of b and say that this equals hello world, the value of b is now a string. Okay? And we can check this by Console.log a. Go ahead and get rid of this. Save it. So come over here to your terminal. And it's performing this function. Okay? And you're probably wondering, why is it not saying let a and const b in here? Because this, it only runs the functions. So the only function that's listed right now is Console.log. This is the only function. And you know it's a function because of the parentheses. Okay, this is the only function. And it's console.logging a. What is a? Well, let's check. Come up here. A is right here. What does a equal? A equals 12. Coming to B. Save it. Rerun the code. And it says hello world. Console.log B. Where's B? B's right here. B equals hello world. Moving forward, one thing that we do need to discuss is semicolons. Okay? Semicolons like this right here. Most of the time, you do not need semicolon. I usually do not use semicolons unless I absolutely have to. And how do I know when I absolutely have to? It's when it tells me. Okay? So JavaScript is pretty advanced enough to know when the stuff ends. Okay, so just like I showed you just now, I just removed that semicolon. If I were to rerun the code, it still works. All right, so just be open-minded about that and be aware. Okay, you don't always need it, but when you do, it'll tell you. The one that was right here, I didn't even do it. I didn't even type it in. I just did the log, the console log, and it automatically created it for me. I can't remember the time that I intentionally put in a semicolon. All right, moving on. So we're gonna learn about concatenating. Okay, what concatenating is just taking two items and putting them together. Okay, so like this, for example. Okay, let's take hello world Let's split it up into two words. Hello. You're gonna put a plus sign. You're gonna put another quotation mark. Put world. Okay. Let's run this. And as you can see, it created hello world. Let me clear this, that way y'all can see it clearly. Hello world. Okay. It printed it. It did exactly what it's gonna do, but notice how the words are squished together. Okay. That's because it's taking exactly the value of each other and putting them together. There's no space in either one of these, so it's gonna take it in, squish them together. One way to fix this is to create a space in the word. And we now have the space because it's taking hello plus a space plus the world. Okay. Or you can do it like this. Hello, put the space in there. And it's taking hello space plus world. Okay. Or the other way. Hello plus space world. And it all works. Okay. So whichever one you feel comfortable with, whichever one makes more sense to you, do it. Okay. But just be aware that whenever you're concatenating things, it's taking everything for face value. So we can start implementing concatenating with variables. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to create a variable called taste. And in here, you can create a string and you can say it's bad or you can say it's good. Say whatever. Okay. I want you to create a log. Console.log. Put a string. Okay. The pizza was, and I want you to exit out of the string, which is on the outside of the quotation mark, plus taste. Okay. This plus taste does not need to be in quotation marks. Okay. I'm going to put it in quotation marks anyways, so you can see what happens. Okay, because what we want to do is we want to call this variable. All right. So the pizza was taste. Okay. Console logging is going to take things for face value. Concatenating. Okay. Let's go ahead and remove the quotation marks. Save it. Okay. Notice how the text editor is telling us, hey, these two things are the exact same thing. Run your code. The pizza was good. The pizza was taste. What is taste? Taste is good. So the pizza was good. Take this moment. Try to see if you can create a variable with your name and say hello. Like, for example, my name is Isaiah. So if I'm going to create this, mine will say hello Isaiah. Take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and see if you can complete this challenge. Okay, really see if this is something that you can accomplish by yourself without having help. You have plenty of, if you've been following along, you have plenty of notes to look back to. But like I said, really challenge yourself and really see if you can do this, because this is the only way you're going to be able to learn how to be a programmer. Learn how to be a programmer. It's by doing. Okay, you cannot learn by watching. You have to do. Come on, dreamers. It's time for you to wake up. Make it happen. All right. Go ahead and comment this out. Const name. My name is Isaiah. Okay. So if you created a variable with a different name than name, that's okay. Just as long as it worked. Okay. However, if you gave this variable name something completely random that doesn't make sense, just take this middle note and be aware that you need to be naming your stuff proper naming conventions. You got to give it something that makes sense. Okay. You can't just name it whatever you want. Okay, that's not how you become a good programmer. Let's go ahead and log, create a console log. Hello. Name. Go ahead and run this. Hello, Isaiah. So if you were able to complete this, congratulations, because this is actually very difficult to learn and very difficult to have. So if you're able to accomplish this, I applaud you. Okay, so we've spoken about console.log, we've spoken about strings, integers. The next data type that we're going to talk about is called Booleans. Okay, Booleans. And what a Boolean is basically a true or false statement. I want you to comment out what's already inside of your text editor. And okay, so there's a few things about Booleans that we need to be aware of. Okay, so we're going to be using things like an equal sign, a double equal sign, a triple equal sign, a less than, whoops, greater than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equals, and I'll make sure I put this information in here as well. Go ahead and comment these out. Okay, so what an equal sign is, okay, it assigns the variable, as we already know that we've already used previously, but it also does not necessarily check for equality. Okay, it does not check for equality. The double equal sign, it checks for loose equality. Okay, but in JavaScript, you know, it's less strict, and we'll go over some examples for each of these as well. Okay, but just make sure you're taking these notes for right now. Okay, a triple equal sign checks for equality at the strict level. Equality. All right, the less than checks rather a value is less than. The greater than checks if it's greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equals. Okay, so as you can tell, aside from the double equal sign and the triple equal sign, this other stuff, and this one as well, this not equals. The other ones are pretty common, you know, symbols that we've learned in basic math, right? And once again, I cannot stress this enough, okay? But I want you to put yourself in a web developer, a programmer, a software engineer mindset, okay? That's what you are now. And if the internet doesn't work, we don't have jobs. So don't try to memorize this stuff, okay? If you, for whatever reason, you cannot just naturally memorize it, don't force yourself to memorize it. Look everything up if you do not know what it is. Okay, there's no shame in it. There's no programmer out there that memorizes this stuff anyways. You have to look up almost everything. Okay, so if you have to look something up, that's okay. But let's go over some examples. Okay, what I want to do, let's go ahead and create a variable, and let's call this password. Okay, let's create the password, and let's say that the password is ABC123. All right, and then we're gonna log this, console.log, and we're gonna say password, and and we're gonna give it a triple equal sign. And let's put in ABC 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and save this. Let's run it in our terminal. And as you can see, it comes back with the statement, the Boolean of true. I guess to keep things organized, let's go ahead and highlight this. Command X. Come over here to your triple equal sign. And let's paste it underneath there. That way we can just stay organized. All right, we're gonna go over our double equal sign. We're gonna come out the other one. Okay, let's create a variable. And let's give this a string of 25. Oh, that's 254. 25. Let's create a console.log. And let's say sale double equal sign 25. And then let's create another console.log. Sale triple equal sign 25. All right, let's go ahead and run this. And both statements come back as true. Now let's continue and let's go to less than or equal to. Okay, let's create a variable and let's say we're at a movie theater. Okay, and the movie theater wants to sell tickets online, and it's a PG-13 movie. And the movie theater wants to be able to determine whether the user that they're selling the tickets to is at least the age of 13 or older. Okay, so let's say that the user age, okay, remember naming conventions, let's say that they say that their age is 10 years old. All right, we're gonna do console.log. We're gonna say user age less than or equal to 13. Okay, we want to know if the user's age is less than or equal to 13. Save it. And we get the response that it's true. It is true that the user is less than or equal to 13. Okay, which at that point you can set something up to block the sale. So that's an example of that. I'm going to comment this out. Okay, but let's say that, you know, we have a e-commerce site, and if you spend $50 at the store, you get free shipping. Okay, so we would create a variable. We'll just name it discount, and it needs to equal $50. Okay, so we can console.log this, and we can say, does the $45 is it greater than or equal to discount? Save it, rerun it, and as you can see, it says false. 45 is not greater than or equal to discount, which discount is 50. All right, so those are some examples of that. All right, now as far as not equals to, we can check to see if passwords match. Okay, so we can create a variable. We can call this old password. Okay, don't forget, always use camelCase. Old password, and the password can be ABC123. Okay, then we create a second variable saying new password equals, let's say 123 ABC. Okay, so we can console.log this, and we can say is the old password, does it not equal the new password? Save it, and you get true. It is true that the old password does not equal the new password. All right, so there goes a perfect example for that. Okay, so at this time, what I would like you to do is I would like you to pause this video and I'm going to give you a series of questions that you can try on your own. Okay, really take the time and this opportunity to try to do this, because this is the only thing that's going to make you a better developer. All right, I'm going to comment this stuff out. Let's do the first one. I'm going to clear this. Don't forget, if you need to clear your terminal, all you got to do is type in clear. All right, it does not reset your terminal. It just kind of cleans up the mess that's in there. All right, the first one is the number 5 equivalent to number 5? Okay, so we're going to console.log. Five equals 5. Save it. Let's run it. And as you can see, I got an error. Okay, so we got a syntax error. Okay, invalid left-hand side in assignment. All right, and I messed up. I did not put 2 equal sign. Okay, so remember, 1 equal sign is assigning something. Okay, just like in variables, your variable A equals 5 or whatever, you're assigning something. So whenever you're doing console logging, okay, make sure you're using at least 2 equal sign. Let's rerun this. And it says true. It is true that 5 does equal 5. All right. Let's go ahead and let's throw this right here. Comment that out. All right. Let's do console log again. Does beans equal beans? Run it. It's false. Beans does not equal beans, because you got lowercase and then you got capital case. All right, so they do not equal each other. It's false. Okay, this one's a little bit more tricky. Okay, we're gonna type it just as is. Okay, does 5 plus 10 times 3, is that strictly equal to 5 plus 5 times 3? False. They do not equal each other. Okay, so remember that, whoops, I did not put the right numbers. Let's try this again. False. All right. So remember that when it comes to math, remember PEMDAS, okay? Order of operations. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay, so right here, this is actually going 10 times 3 plus 5. 10 times 3 is 30. 30 plus 5 is 35. Over here, we're doing 10 plus 5 first. So 10 plus 5 is 15. Then we're doing the multiplication. 15 times 3 is 45. 35 does not equal 45. All right. Come down here. Do another console log. Okay. Does 9 equal false? It does not. Now it's a little bit more obvious. All right. Is A greater than A? We're going to do log. Is A greater than A? Let's run it. False. They're the same value, if anything. So that's not true. And then of course we're gonna log is Burger King greater than Make a D's. Let's run this. And of course you get false. All right, so hopefully by this time, at this point, you've learned a lot about Booleans and you kind of understand how the Booleans work. They're not too difficult. There are some more difficult concepts that you can throw in here, but overall, this is pretty much the base concept about how this works. All right, so now we're gonna start learning about logical operators. All right, so what a logical operator is basically you running a console log or some form of equation saying, hey, I need you to check these 2 or more variables and provide me with the proper output. Okay, so for example, let's go ahead and make a variable called gamer. All right, let's say that this is true. Okay, but let's also say that that the gamer also lives in Texas. All right, let's say that this is true. So now, whenever we do a console log, we can say gamer and Texas. Remember, we're still working on Booleans, okay? We just want to know if the gamer and the Texas output is true. All right, so we can run this, and as you can see, we get a true output. All right, let's add this variable. Let's add a variable of location. Okay, location can be Texas. All right, so we're going to come here in our console log, and we're going to say location 3 equal sign. Okay, does it equal to Texas, or okay, the 2 slashes like this. This slash, by the way, if you look above your return button or your enter button, you'll see the backslash, and then you'll see the up and down slash. All you got to do is hit shift and that slash, and you'll get this right here. Okay, does location equal Texas, or does location equal, and we can say Arizona. Okay, we should get a true output, and you can see that it's true. Okay, so what this is checking for is that is the location Texas or is the location Arizona? As long as one of these fit, you'll get a true output. So let's say that, let's just remove Texas, and we'll just do this for fun, okay? Remove Texas, and we can put New Mexico. All right, if we rerun this, we should get a false output. See, false. It's false because locations does not equal Texas. New Mexico does not equal Texas. Arizona does not equal Texas. So you're getting a false output. All right. All right, so now what we're going to learn is we're going to start learning how to write dry code. Okay, dry, D-R-Y, dry code. And what is dry code? Dry code is an acronym. Okay, dry stands for don't repeat yourself. Okay, dry stands for don't repeat yourself. And basically what this means is that you want to write as little code as possible. Okay, there's no need for you to write a whole bunch of lines of code when you can do it with a lot less lines. All right, so what we're going to start learning at this point is we're going to start learning for loops, and we're going to start learning while loops. Okay, so let's say that we want to print let's say we want to print numbers 1 through 1000. Okay, we can do log. Okay, and we can say this number is 1. We can do another one. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can keep going all the way up until we get to 1000. Okay, but how much sense does this make, right? It doesn't make any sense at all for us to write 1000 lines of code because 1, it's not time efficient. 2, it'll take forever. And then, like, what's the point of really doing this? Okay, so this is where for loops come in, or loops in general. This is where this comes in. Okay, and every programmer's dream is whenever they can do something that's smarter and not harder. Right? They care about the efficiency and the functionality of things. So they don't want to write 1000 lines of code just to make 1000 small little tweaks here and there. So instead, as programmers, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to find shortcuts. And luckily, loops is our answer to this. All right, so for example, this is how we would structure a loop. Okay, so let's say that we're going to create a variable, and we're going to use let. Remember, our two variables that we have is let and const. Okay, and I'll just mention this right here. So const, think of const as in things that cannot be changed. Okay, things that cannot be changed. Think of const as in constant. Okay, if things is in a constant motion, it will forever be on that motion. Okay, it will continuously stay on track. Let is another variable that allows you to allow change. So for me personally, that's how I memorized it. Const as in constant, constantly going, constantly in motion, and let is let the thing change. Okay, that's how I was able to do it. Okay, but let's say we create a variable called num. Okay, num short for number, and we're gonna give this a variable value of 1. Okay, we can create a while loop that's like this. While, you're gonna do your parentheses, num is less than or equal to 1000. Okay, you're gonna create an open bracket just like this, and we're gonna Console.log the number is plus num. Okay, and then you're gonna come below this, and we're gonna do num plus plus. All right, so what's going on here? What we're doing is, for starters, we have this variable. Okay, num short for number, it has a value of 1. So what we're saying is that while num, okay, while this variable is less than or equal to 1000, run this function. Okay, allow this to continue until it is no longer fitting in this equation that we have provided to it. So every time num is less than 1000, what we want to happen is we want a console log to show up that says the num 300. In the loop, it'll say the number is, it'll pull 300, whatever num is at that time, and that's what we'll get in our terminal. So when we come here to line 115, the very next line is saying num plus plus. So there's a few ways that you can understand this, and I'm going to try to put this as simple as I can. Okay, num plus plus, all that is you taking the number plus 1. Okay, the number plus 1. So if this is 1, it'll be 1 plus 1 equals 2. I know that's probably a little bit confusing, and maybe you're not understanding that correctly, but let's just go ahead and run this code. That way you can see what it looks like in your terminal. Okay, so go ahead and run this, and when you run it, as you can see, you'll have a list of numbers. The number is whatever the num is in that loop. Okay, remember, this is all this is concatenation. Okay, if you can't remember concatenating, think of it like conjugating. Okay, like that's how I memorized it. Conjugating, like conjugated twins. It's taking multiple things and putting it together inside of one body. All right, so as you can see, line by line, let's start with number 1. Okay, the number was 1. It said 1 is less than or equal to 1000. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna print the number is 1. The number is 1, and we're gonna do 1, which is num at this very moment. Num plus 1 equals 2. So then right here, num does not equal 1 anymore. Num now equals 2. So it says while 2 is less than or equal to 1000, console.log the number is 2. 2 plus 1 equals 3. Num changes to 3, and so on and so forth. Come down here, 3 plus 1 equals 4. Num now equals 4, And we just continue, so on and so forth in this exact same pattern all the way up until you get to 1,000. Okay. Now it's very important that you understand how this works, this less than or equal to. Okay. If you want everything all the way up to 1,000, you have to put equals. Okay. Because if, let's just take this out, the equal sign, and we run this. Let's go and clear this. As you can see, we only get up to 999. All right. And this is because 1,000 is not less than 1,000. Okay. 999 is less than 1,000, but 1,000 is not less than 1,000. Okay. However, if you didn't want to use the equal sign, if you decided to do 1,001, right? If you run it, you will hit the 1,000 mark, okay? Because 1,000 is less than 1,001, but it will not read 1,001 because 1,001 is not less than 1,001. All right, so this is how that works. So this is very important. Notice how many lines this is. This is only a few lines of code, okay? If we had done it like this, where it would have taken us 1,000 lines, we just completed the exact same thing, in a few lines. And so this is why making your code dry is very important. It does take practice, all right? And oftentimes you'll probably start to notice that you're copy and pasting, some code, and then you're just taking like little minor tweaks out of it. But then after a while, you start doing this for a little bit, you'll start to notice patterns. And then at that point, you can start upgrading your code to try something that's more dry and fitting. All right. So don't think that you're going to understand this stuff right off the bat, because more than likely you're not. And that's okay. Okay. We're all here to learn. We're all here to, gain the knowledge and get some practice in order for us to be the best programmers that we can be. Because at the end of the day, what's most important, the number one thing you should focus on right now is getting it to work. If you can get it to work, then more power to you, because that's what's more important. After you get things to work, then at that point you can start to learn and how to implement and get it to work with a lot less code, So as far as the loop concept, okay, if maybe I can clarify a little bit more about what the loop concept is. A loop concept is pretty much a process that's repeating. All right. So along the way in the loop process, there are going to be some values that change. So think of it like an analog clock. The analog clock is in a loop. Okay. So for those of the younger generation that doesn't know what an analog clock is, okay, you got a digital clock and you have an analog clock. The analog clock is, think about it like the grandfather clock, with the minute hand and the hour hand. All right, that is in a constant loop. Okay, for each minute, the minute hand increases, the count of the hour hand by 1. Okay, so then the hour hand counts from 1 to 12, and after the 12, it starts counting from 1 again. Okay, so you can kind of think of that how the loop process works. Now, if for whatever reason you send yourself into an infinite loop, one thing that you should keep in mind is that all you have to do is hit Control C. Okay, Control C, that's the up arrow key, not Command. Control C, and that should kill your terminal. Okay, you never want to put yourself in an infinite loop. If you figure out that you are in an infinite loop, kill your terminal as fast as you can, because otherwise you'll probably just end up frying your computer because it's thinking too hard and it's just trying to, it's like in panic mode pretty much. All right, let's try another loop here. Let's go ahead and comment this out. All right, and let's create another variable. Okay, and let's call this run program. All right, let's say that it's true. And we're going to say while run program, let's console.log, program is running. And then after the console.log happens, we're going to change the run program value, and we're going to set it to false. All right, So let's go ahead and run this. And we get it. Console.log is running. The loop ended. So just so we're clear, what just happened is that it took this value, run program, it's currently true. So while run program is happening, it's going to console log it, the program is running, and then it's going to change the value from program to false. So is run program happening? No, it's false. All right, so one thing that may help you understand what's going on is to write pseudocode. And what pseudocode really is just you putting in sentences in your text editor, pretty much saying what's happening every step of the way. Okay? It's not actually writing code, it's just saying and describing what's happening in your code. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna have an initial condition. And this initial condition is your variable. All right. And then we'll have the while, we'll have the open parentheses, and then this is going to be our Boolean expression. Okay. So for example, there's num less than 1001. You know, that's true or false. So this is saying, hey, if this is true, run this. If it's false, don't run it. All right. If this is true, if run program is true, run this code. If it's false, don't run it. Okay. Open brackets. Okay. This is where we're going to run our code. Okay. This is like the console log and your num ++ or your variable ++ or minus or whatever other variable that you can think of, whatever it is you're trying to do. This is where you would put that. Okay. And here as well. Change the condition. Okay. So like I said, this is also another place where you may put, this is where you would put your ++ and you're changing your conditions or whatever. Okay. So if we look at this one, for example, we have our initial condition, we have our Boolean, we have the code we want to run, and then we have the change condition. And that is the proper way to set up a loop. All right. Now, I want to take this opportunity to come back to infinite loops right quick. Now I can show you guys exactly what an infinite loop looks like. So what I want you to do is let's recreate this num function. Create a variable, num equals 1. Okay. While num is less than 1000, I want you to console log what num is. And let's just leave it like that. Let's not even change the value. Okay. Now, before you run your code, I want you to watch mine first. Okay. That way you don't fry your computer. We're going to rerun this. Okay. Make sure you're watching mine before you do yours. And as you can see, you see my computer going crazy. You hit Control-C to stop it. All right. Now, I'm going to scroll up. Okay. I let this computer run only for a few seconds. And look how many ones I done printed. An insane amount. So if you allow your computer to go into this infinite loop for too long, you could, create some damages. So this is why it's important to test your code, figure out what's going on. And if you realize that it's an infinite loop, kill it. Okay. Control-C. Right. And so the reason that this was an infinite loop is because, of course, the variable was 1. And we're saying, hey, if num is less than 1000, run this console log. But we never changed the value. So it was 1 and it stayed the number 1. Okay. That's why this is important to change your value in order to get out of it. So if we run it again, see, look at that. My computer's already scared. It doesn't even know what's going on because of that infinite loop. All right, I edited this video, but as my wheel was spinning, it actually took like a good minute before it came back together. Okay, but as you can see, we rerun the code, and just this simple fix right here, changing the value, created a proper while loop again. All right, so at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start learning about code blocks. Okay, so the curly braces denote a block of code. Okay, these curly braces right here. So whatever inside of here is known as a block, and each loop is taking the code between the curly braces, and then it's gonna run that code multiple times so that we don't have to rewrite it out. All right, and maybe if I rewrite this code like this, okay, this num plus plus, if you're confused about the number changing, okay, maybe if I rewrite it like this, it will make more sense. Okay, we can create the variable here. Let's say num. Okay, we're gonna take this variable. What does num equal? Num equals num plus 1. All right, let's go ahead and clear this, and let's rerun this code. As you can see, we get the exact same thing. Okay, so that's where num plus plus equals. Remember, this is all comes down to being dry. All right, so if this makes more sense to you, rewrite it like this. Okay, you don't have to do plus plus right now. Just know that there's other options out there for you to write less code. All right, so when it comes to 1 is less than 1000. Console.log the number 1 equals 1 plus 1. So num now equals 2, so on and so forth. 2 plus 1 is 3, so num now equals 3, and so on and so forth. Hopefully that clarifies some of that for you. All right, and you can also have negative. So let's say that this is negative 1000, and instead we want to take the number minus 1. All right, we can do that as well. Run the code, and make sure you change this, because otherwise it'll never run the code. If we rerun it, oh, not clear. First code. Now we have all the negative numbers. All right. So as you can see, num equals num minus 1, so 1. The current number is 1. What does num equal? 1 minus 1 is 0. Let's see if I can scroll up. 0, and so on and so forth. Okay. And as far as the shorthand, if you like the plus plus version, it's just num minus minus. Rerun it. All right, you get the exact same thing. Now let's say that we wanted to do increments of 5, right? Let's go ahead and clear this again. All right, increments of 5. Oh, that's 45. Increments of 5. We're gonna do plus equals 5. We run this code. Oh. And as you can see, it's now doing increments of 5. Well, Isaiah, how is it doing increments of 5 if we're not going by 5s? First it was at 1, then it went to 6, now you're at 11, 16, and blah, 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 so on and so forth. It's because num starts with whatever the first number is. Okay, so if num equals 1, it's doing 1 plus 5, which is 6. 6 plus 5, which is 11. 11 plus 5, 16, and is going from that point forward. All right, so whatever, keep that in mind whenever you're creating your while function, is that whatever the first number is starting with, that really determines everything else from that point forward. You know, so if we change this and num is now a value of 0, save it. Let's go ahead and clear it. Rerun it. Now you can see everything is going by 5. The first number, the first value was 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Right? So that's a way for you to go by increments Okay, and if you want the written out way, okay, num equals num plus 5. That's exactly the same thing that we just ran. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to create a while loop that goes by the increments of 10. Okay. I want to see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up until you get to 1000. Take this time, really challenge yourself, see if you can do this. I hope you can. Pause the video and go ahead and get that done. All right. Hopefully you took that time to really challenge yourself. Let's see if we can do this. So we're going to write a variable. And we're going to say num, or whatever other variable that you decide to name it. We're going to start it at 0. Okay. While num is less than or equal to 1000. Okay. We're going to console.log num. And we're going to do num plus 10, just like that. I'm going to rerun it. And as you can see, we're now going by tens, and 1000 is included. If you did not get 1000 included, you more than likely missed this equal sign. Okay, be aware of that. Okay, if you ran into that problem before and then you turned around and fixed it, congratulations, because you just solved and fixed your own code. I'm very proud of you, because that's not something that's easy to do. All right, so rather you decided to write your change of code like this, or you decided to write it the dry way, doesn't matter, just as long as you got it done. And if you did do it the dry way, extra kudos to you, because once again, that's not easy to do. All right, so the other form of loops is called a for loop. Okay, a for loop. What a for loop is pretty much the exact same thing that a while loop is. Okay, but all the work is pretty much compact into one single block. So it's leaving less room for infinite loops, and we don't have to declare any variables outside of the loop either. So let me give you an example of this. Okay, so a for loop. Okay, if you have your text editor, it should automatically pop like this. Okay, so let me restart this so you can see it. For loop. Usually if you see the ones with the squares, that means that it has text into it. And you can see on the right hand side that there's words that you can use. So you can choose one, because there's different forms of for loop, but we're going to choose the most basic one. All right, we're going to choose a for loop. Okay, and what I want you to do is I want you to change everything to I. Okay, don't use index, use I. This all comes down to dry loop. Now, dry code. Now, whether you decide to use I, or you decide to use index, or you decide to use A or Z or X, doesn't matter. This is all variable names, okay? Now, what we're saying here is we're saying let I, okay, the variable, this is no different than num, all right? Just so we're clear, this I, it could have been num, okay? But we use I in for loops. So we're saying let I equals 0, or we can say 1. Let I equals 1, and that's what the semicolon is for. And if I is less than, we're going to change this, array.length, and we're going to set it to 1000. If I is less than or equal to 1000, go ahead and add a number to it, add 1 to it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of this, and we're gonna change this to Console.log, and we're gonna want to print I, just like that. All right, let's go ahead and clear this. So go ahead and rerun it. And as you can see, this for loop ran the exact same way that our first one did. Okay, so these are the two loops that we can do. We can either use a while loop or we can use a for loop. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to challenge yourself, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to create a for loop that starts at the number 2000 and ends at the number 500. Okay, starts at the number 2000 and ends at the number 500. Okay, really challenge yourself, something that you can easily do with everything that we've learned so far. Okay, take this time, pause the video, and see if you can get this done. All right, let's go ahead and comment this out. Okay, we're going to create a for loop. Okay, and we're going to change all the values to I. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start the number at 2000. All right, so what we're saying right here on the first line is let I, which is our variable, let I equal 2000. Okay, if I, you're going to change this array to 500. And this, right now what this is saying is if I is less than 500, run the code. Okay, but I will never be less than 500 because I is already 2000. So it'll never run this code. So what we need to do is we need to change it. Less than 500. So if I mean greater than 500. If I is greater than 500, then you can run the code. But we want it less than or equal to. Okay. And then we're going to change this plus plus to minus minus. Delete this. Create your console.log. We're going to console.log I. Okay, so once again, what this is saying is let I equal 2000. And if I is greater than or equal to 500, remove 1 from I. Okay, so let's run this code. And voila, look at that. We're starting with 2000. Okay, we started at 2000. It read that 2000 is greater than or equal to 500, and it removed 1 from it and it printed it. So 2000 is now 1999. It printed 1999, and it comes back to it. Let 1999. If 1999 is greater than or equal to 500, remove 1. 1998. So on and so forth. If you were able to do this, kudos to you, because this is actually very difficult. This challenge that I gave you, this very last challenge, was probably the hardest challenge I've provided to you so far. And it really took everything that you've learned within this last hour or so to really, get everything together to get this to work. So if you were able to do this, congratulations. I applaud you. And if you weren't, that's okay, because like I said, this is very difficult to do, and all that means is that you just need a little bit more practice. Okay, so play around with these numbers, create more for loops, play around with the numbers and see what the things do. Okay, do not forget to have these semicolons in these for loops though. All right, play around with the numbers, see what you can do, and if you want to start more simpler, okay, just start with 1 and end at 10. Okay, after you start playing around with these numbers, you'll soon get it. Okay, so if you made it this far at the end of the video, congratulations, okay? Because doing this stuff is not easy, okay? Learning how to code is not easy. I don't care what nobody says. It's definitely mind draining, mentally draining. And sometimes whenever you run into errors and you're trying to figure stuff out, it just takes so much out of you in order to get your code to work. And so what's very important that I want you to do from this point forward, if you weren't already doing this, is make sure you take breaks, okay? Do not sit in front of your computer for over an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3+ hours, whatever. Don't sit at your computer for an extended period of time and try to code, okay? You need to take breaks, okay? Think of this like exercising. You're mentally exercising, okay? You're putting your stuff into practice, you're thinking a lot, and it's just a much healthier thing for you to do. And then if you ever get stuck on errors, sometimes just stepping away from the computer and coming back, believe it or not, your code will magically work just because you stepped away from it. There's been times where I've came back, you know, from taking a break from being frustrated, and my code just magically started working all of a sudden. So make sure you do that. Take breaks, have water, eat some snacks, and get up. Now, one more thing I do want to say before I let you guys go is that keep practicing, okay? Keep practicing. Don't leave today and don't touch JavaScript again tomorrow or the next day or the day after that, okay? Come back, because just like any sport, just like any skill, just like anything in the world, practice makes perfect, and the more practice you do, the better you're going to be, okay? Because dreamers, you're waking up and you're making it a reality. I'll see you on the next one.